So let's introduce ourselves real quick, your name and your call sign. William?
I'm William, NH6ET. I'm also the trustee for the club call sign, KH6EJ. Amateur extra. I love pretty much all things radio, except for RF birds. It's the only thing I found that I don't like. And you guys know that I'm big into the technical side, and that we have like the Tech Net on Wednesday nights and the HF Tech Net on Thursday nights. That's kind of the stuff that I really enjoy out of amateur radio.
Yeah. Thank you, William. Jim?
I'm WH6FQI, Jim.
Vicky?
Yeah.
And program and.
Programs and
Digital.
digital
Committee.
committee.
Yeah.
And yeah, I like everything ham radio.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I'm Frank, Cal7 Hotel from PTH, Alaska, en route from there, back from, oh, there we go. Craig, KL7 Hotel, en route from Melbourne, Australia, where Alan and I were at the Rotary Convention, and he got off here and stopped, and I got off here, and my ex-wife, Ruth Ann, is here, and we're going to continue on over to Alaska a couple of days from now. But in the meantime, we heard about this really exciting ham radio club, so we decided to come halfway around the planet to attend. Thank you. Anybody wants a QSL card, don't have Alaska, here you go.
WH6FSA, Mark, and new to ham, interested in learning everything possible.
I'm Joe, WH6FZH. I'm the secretary of the club. I'm amateur extra. I love all things radio and
Paul DeCass, WH7BR, been in the club 15 plus years. Past president, past vice president, past treasurer, past board member, a bunch of other, and the club's trustee. So anyway, I've been involved.
Name is Roy. Kunishi, call sign is KH6KU. Newham, one of the few hybrids. Paul's threatening to shred my CB hat. But anyway, I'm a hybrid CB ham operator. I enjoy everything radio like Jim.
In the back.
Hi, my name's George Scheibe, WH6GUL. Just a new member and new to ham.
Hi, I'm Chuck Wakely, KH6NE, and just joined the club and came in just to see what's going on. Haven't been doing this for many decades, so it's a new deal.
Frank Owsley. I just got a white call sign, KH6FA. I've just moved to the island, so I'm new here.
I'm Terry, H6CS. We're from Hamakua. We do the Hamakua Net.
This is a stick, right? There's no actual
It's
speaker.
coming
on
out.
here.
Recording.
You're recording. Oh, okay. That explains it. Okay, I am Rick, AH6RK. I've been involved in MCOM with Kerry. We're on the Hamakua coast, which is the black coast as far as propagation goes. And been in the club now for 8 years, I guess. So we're not quite 15, but we're, 8's not bad.
It's over 10.
Okay.
Welcome.
I'm Eric, KH6CQ, also president of Alani Hui Repeater Club. So up north.
Yeah, Bill Stam, live in Hilo, just starting to get interested in getting my license. This is Bill Stam, and I live in Hilo, and I'm just getting started to get my license.
My name is Thomas. I go by WH6GWL. I keep having to pound that into my head because I had to get new license. It lapsed. And if I ever accidentally put out my old license on the air, I'm sorry. But yeah, it's been a while.
Afternoon, everyone. Gary, WH6EPS from up Mountain View. I guess I enjoy pretty much sitting around on the 40-meter band, either on the 8.8 or the 7163 frequency. Enjoy everything scanning, SDRs, scanners, kind of more of a listener, I guess.
David, KH6CZ, relatively new ham, but extra, and
recently became a member of the board for the BIARC as chair of the Public Service Communications Committee. It's a mouthful, but I'm trying to communicate. Thank you.
Oh, Tony.
I'm Tony, WH6DVI. I'm the Aries Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator and with the Big Island VOAD Communications Committee, and also your friendly BIARC Treasurer.
And I'm Alan Okinaka, KH6 ATU and Amateur General. And I'm the president of the BIARC right now. As I said, you're all welcome to join our board meeting, please. Come, we need all the inputs we can. Good discussion. I can tell you one thing, the board is very dedicated to making sure our club is vibrant and a lot of vitality. And we want to bring in more members and we want our existing members to get more active in the club doing. So we're gonna, as you read our newsletter and you see opportunities where you can use your expertise or knowledge or experience to help the club jump in, because we're kind of a fun group to work with. Okay, so the first thing we want to do,
We have members online.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, members online. Mike. Is your name Mike Last? Okay,
Muted.
go ahead.
He needs to
Still muted,
unmute.
Mike.
You gotta unmute. No, you're still muted.
Yeah, Mike, work on getting unmuted. Why don't we go to Lee?
Yeah, where's Lee?
Press the speak bar.
Okay, Hamgram lady, Lee.
Hi, I'm Lee, WH6LC, amateur extra, and I've been a club member as long as I've been a ham, 11 years. So I'm taking screenshots. So we have lots of pictures for our hamgram next month. 73.
Thank you. Okay, Les, are you there? Les is not there. He's in Montana somewhere, he said. Somebody asked a question, how does he get his electric car from California to Montana and all that with all this charging station? That's a challenge, right? No? Okay, well, he's in Montana, so everything worked out. Okay, the Jim's FQ. Tony K is here. That's it, right? Mike, are you unmuted now? You gotta. There we go. Okay, Mike, go ahead.
NH7JT. I've been in this business for, I can't believe, over 60 years. Wow. And I'm not even 40, so I don't know how that works. Anyway, good to see you guys. I just had surgery and I'm back here, so that's why I'm not there. Okay, that's it.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do is, where's Eric? Can you come up? And he had 5 batteries. He got 4 more free ones to give out. And can you say a little bit about them so that people will take them home and adopt them? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was up at North Hawaii Community Hospital and every once in a while they switch out the batteries in the computers on wheels things. So the monitors work in that. And I was talking to the IT guy and I said, what do you do with the batteries? And he said, well, you have to pay to get rid of them. And I said, well, would you like me to take them off your hands for free? And he goes, sure. So we go in the back and he goes, take them all. So there was quite a few. So I brought 5 that were really good. I've got another couple that I'm keeping for my remote receiver projects, and then a bunch of them were bad. So we took them over to one of the collection agencies up there and you can turn them in. And I don't think you get any money for them, but at least they'll take them for free. So if you need any batteries, they're 35 ampere hour, 12 volt AGM batteries. I'm sure that there'll be more available in the future. So if anybody wants any batteries, send me an email at my call sign at ARRL.net and I'll put you on the list.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Second thing, Roy and Joe, can you guys talk about the field day thing to everybody here? Joe?
Okay, so field day, can you say the name of the park? Cujillo, Cala-
Oh, is it Kuhio? Oh, okay, so it's Kuhio Kalaniana Ole Park, which is located right after Pond's Restaurant, where the hams meet for Friday lunch. It's right after the parking lot. There's a yellow gate that goes in. So there's the restaurant, there's a gate for the park, and then there's food trucks. So if you go past the food trucks, you went too far. So that's where the park's at.
Thank you. Also, Reed's Bay is going to be an alternate if there's a problem with that park. So basically, we need setup and breakdown volunteers, if anybody can do that. And if anybody could bring coolers, tables, pop-up tents, chairs, any of that kind of stuff, that'd be great. And hope to see you there. Yeah, set up at 7 a.m.
7 a.m.
Operational.
Okay, before we go to our featured speaker, are there any other announcements or?
Can zoom in?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that's the park. That's the one right there.
right here.
That's the one on that peninsula.
Just some,
So this is Pond's Restaurant?
that's Bonds. And there's the houses and there's a food trucks over here
Yeah,
and the
right
yellow
there.
gate is right here.
Okay. And there's tables in the middle of the field, so we're gonna pop up a tent for one of those tables.
Oh,
There's already tables up there. Yeah, there's tables
Yeah.
there. There's picnic tables, permanent ones. Right, how's the parking look there? Looks great.
Looks like that.
With asphalt.
I can't see past that one.
Alec,
Just-
can you move out of the way of the screen? People say they can't see through you.
It's a nice
Yeah.
parking lot, but there's not a.
just to advertise what Rotary did, and I'm pretty sure Paul will appreciate this. 4 clubs, Pohoa, Volcano, actually 5 clubs, Hilo, Hilo Bay, and South Hilo. We spent maybe like 2 months, right? Yeah, you said you dulled your chainsaw. This place was a jungle. And we went in there and we did everything we needed to turn it into a place like this. So I left a lot of my sweat and blood there. It's still soaked into the ground there. Okay, any? Oh, I don't know. You're talking about Audrey Wilson, right? Yeah, I'm not sure.
I was there one day and Audrey was doing the lunches.
Oh, maybe,
But that
maybe.
white thing in the corner top, that's still the outhouses? The
No.
Porta potties?
Right here?
Yeah, that is, huh?
I don't
There's
think
the
so.
bathroom.
There used to be some over here, but I don't, well, I don't know when they took this photograph, but, okay, you're on, Jim?
We'd like to have if possible, somebody to CW, operate to, because it's really good to show people doing it and encourage people to learn it. And so really be nice if we could get, maybe somebody operate CW for an hour or two, or, I know we had somebody do it in the past and it was always a real crowd draw, when drawing a crowd when they did that. And I'd really like to see that too. So anybody that knows CW, we'd appreciate it. Either bring your own key or, we can supply a key, paddle.
That's great, yeah. I can send, but I cannot receive.
Is there a schedule for the day, like the Fox Hunt's gonna be at this time or any?
All righty, William, you're on.
Well, first, do we have the fox here? What does the fox say?
Wrong call sign.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Somewhere in here.
So somewhere in here right now, this fox is transmitting, and this is the fox that people are going to be looking for when we do the fox hunt at field day. Now, as you guys know, we're doing this fox hunt in a relatively close space. This isn't like a citywide fox hunt where, you have to take multiple bearings and home in, try to figure out the area. This is the end game that we're doing here. It's like putting. So this is the putting of the fox hunt. So what do you do when you get in close to the fox? How do you find it? Is your Doppler going to help you in that case? Stuck to your car? Probably not. So if you're using a system like a Doppler, you have to have some other method set up. Anybody have any trade secrets they want to share? Yeah, that's a good one. Take your antenna off. Because what are you trying to do? You're trying to attenuate that signal. Go ahead. Yeah, and what are you doing by doing that?
Turning around, signal that's in front of you will be loud. Turn around, it won't be loud.
Yeah, using your body as a reflector, and you can combine those techniques. If you get in so close that your radio isn't giving you that amount of selectivity to say, hey, it either is or isn't in that direction. It can hear it no matter which way you're turning. Well, first look down. If that doesn't work, take your antenna off. Does anybody have one of the dummy loads that we scavenged out of the transmit combiner today? No, just the whole thing with the sampler on it. Yeah, so if you see Gary here has this dummy load, and it still has a circulator attached to it from the transmit combiner application. But the whole purpose of this, the reason I brought these in out of the junk drawer today, is that this dummy load has a sample port on it. It says neg 30 on it. So what you can do, and I'm going to hold that up at home so people can see the sample port that I'm talking about. Hold on, let me let Mel in here. So you can connect that sample port to your HT. And then your HT is connected to the dummy load. But on the other side, you can put an antenna. Either it can be the rubber ducky from your radio, from your HT, or you could go with, say, a loop antenna. And now you have the ability to hunt around with that loop, but have the added benefit of having 30 dB of attenuation in there. That's a little bit more precise way than just taking the antenna off. Not that taking the antenna off doesn't provide a good benefit, but this allows you to use a directional antenna. It would also let you use an interferometer, like a double ducky, if that's your kind of thing. Sorry, I have to run that and talk and everything at the same time. So when you get in close, all the stuff that we talk about for fox hunting, that's generally the long game thing. That's your drivers, that's your wedges. Once you get close, once you're on that putting green, as it were, it's a whole different set of techniques, but the idea is the same. You want to move around. I'm going to take a bearing from here, and then I'm going to take a bearing from over here and see if they're different. If they're not different, has that told me something? Sure, it tells me that it's on a line in this direction, and I moved either towards or away from it. If the bearing changed, okay, I'm going to see where those lines converge. I'm going to go over there and take another bearing. Is the fox going to be there? Probably not, but it could be. You're probably closer. As you get much closer, you're going to find that these techniques become less and less and less effective. Last year, who participated in the field day fox hunt? How many people were able to get a bearing on that thing at all? Not really. It was heard no matter where you were standing. If you faced that way, held your radio up close to your body, you still heard it. So what do you do in that case? That's where you start to have to bring out these other techniques, bringing in the attenuation, using an antenna with a good null. If you guys go read your ARRL antenna book, you can read how to make a cardioid pattern. And that's something you can homebrew really easily. 2 quarter waves, or you can do it with dipoles, just 2 dipoles at the right distance. And now you've got a cardioid pattern, and you can put that null out in front of you. And when you sweep it around and you don't hear it, you know it's in that direction. Well, that works particularly well when you can start to attenuate down that signal. Is neg 30 going to be enough? Maybe, maybe it's not. Can you attenuate that even further? Sure, you might need other attenuators, but how can you make an attenuator? We're not trying to transmit. So if you simply take a piece of coax and you connect it to a radio and you strip it back like we're gonna make one of the feed line antennas like Roy presented 2 months ago, was it? Yeah. But instead, you take another piece of coax and you strip it back and you take those two center conductors still in their insulation and you tape them together. You've now just made a coupler. And by varying the length of that coupler, you can vary how much signal makes it through. You can homebrew a way to get high levels of attenuation in. You don't need really expensive stuff to do that. You can make a loop antenna with a couple of pieces of coax too. And that can help as well. Even something as simple as these little intercell ties. This could make a loop antenna if you know where to cut the shield and you feed in on one side and you feed in on the braid on the other. It doesn't have to be a really expensive antenna from Arrow or somebody like that. You can do this fox hunt with stuff that you whip together just out of your junk drawer. So really the most important thing I can impress upon you, if you want success in this fox hunt, in that close game, in this putting game, is to attenuate that signal until you can't hear it anymore. And then bring it back until you can just hear it. Just hear it. And now hold your HT to your body and turn. See if you hear it a lot more. See if it goes away. You really need to control the amount of signal coming into the radio if you're doing a fox hunt with just your HT. If you've got something a little bit more complex, like a double ducky, you're also going to need to attenuate it down. Maybe not quite as far. You're not trying to use the noise floor to your advantage in that case, but attenuation is the key. Doesn't have to be a store-bought attenuator. It doesn't have to be the games won by the person with the most expensive toys, but it very easily can, and that's why I don't compete in the fox hunt. So, any questions on close game fox hunting? Go ahead, Jim.
So if you have a connector to your HT and it's a piece of wire from the center conductor, made a loop, and then back to the shield. Can you use that as a?
You can, and what I would do in that case is make it resonant in that case, but on the third harmonic. So what frequency is the fox on?
146.5.
Okay.
I calculated, be about a foot a loop of wire, but we would be one wavelength.
Yeah, but that's going to receive way too well. So instead, if you hunt for the fox by using its spurious emissions, everything out there has spurious emissions. The FCC has regulations for how quiet they have to be. Doesn't say that they can't exist, because that's not possible. Trust me, I make a lot of money trying to squish those down sometimes, and you just can't do it. Use that to your advantage. What's the third harmonic of that fox? 440.150. So what's 234 divided by 440.150? Okay, there you go. So now what you're doing is you're looking for that same modulated signal, but you're looking at that signal on its third harmonic. How many decibels down from the carrier is that supposed to be? Well, the FCC has an opinion on that. And then there's the good practices in transceiver design that says that it ought to be no louder than neg 50. And ideally, the marketing material is going to say neg 60. So that even beats using the 30 dB attenuation that's on that sampler. So looking at a higher harmonic, there's other things you can do. This thing's only going to transmit once a minute. Is that right? So that makes it a little bit more difficult. You got to wait till the thing talks to you. It's making RF noise at times where it's not transmitting. Its exciter is running full time. You're probably not going to be able to pick that up because the exciter in that particular chip is buried inside of the actual chip itself. But it also means that its oscillator is running. So if you know the frequency of the oscillator, and most of those oscillators are always the same IF frequency, you could make a loop and sniff for the oscillator. So even when it's not transmitting, when other people are waiting for it to transmit, you can be hunting for that oscillator. Now I'll tell you, that's a really quiet signal. You do not want to attenuate that one when you're looking for it. So.
Question, you have the wire loop, and is it like a mag loop where you're picking up off the the plane of the loop?
Let's define what a mag loop is. A mag loop is interacting primarily with the magnetic field of the electromagnetic wave. That's why we call it a mag loop. So it is built as an inductor. If you build a full-size loop like that, then it is using the E field and the H field. So it no longer exhibits the properties of a mag loop. It's a full-size loop. So what excites a full-size loop? Which direction is the propagation? Through the donut. It's the opposite. So there you would run the edge. But now I'm running the edge. If I'm using an antenna to radio direction find that uses a plane like that, it can give me a hint that it's in front of me, but at the same time, that plane also goes behind me. So be aware of that. That you go, oh, I got it. It's over there behind Paul. But really, it's right behind me. So, any other questions? Anybody want any more tips and tricks of the close game of fox hunting? Oh yeah, absolutely.
Maybe more of a question for Joe, but what's the coverage area that we're going to be searching in? That park, is it going to go out in the ponds? Is it going to go
It's going to be determined by the circumstances of the day. If the park's really crowded, of course, that changes things. So I think the attempt is going to make it as broad as is possible within the circumstances allowed that day.
You don't know anyone with a cell phone, so
You never know. Go ahead. Yeah.
How is that factored into it?
Okay, so think about what a Yagi antenna does. Yagi Uda, as it's properly called, is a directional antenna that has a driven element, a reflector, and one or more directors. So that means that it has a front to back ratio. It receives louder from one direction than it does the other. You can use that to your advantage. You could use that to sweep and see where the signal is the strongest. Now, if you've got a signal strength meter, that's really convenient. But if you're just using an HT and you're using your ears, this is where you're going to have to use the noise floor to your advantage, because otherwise it's going to be coming in strong enough to quiet your squelch full quieting, no matter which way you point it. So you need to attenuate that signal. Do it with an attenuator, do it with the coupler like I talked about, do it with a sampler, something like that. But you've got to get that signal down to where the gain in the front side. So let's say it's a 5 element and you've got maybe 10 decibels front to back ratio because of the reflections that are around you. So you need to get that signal quieted down near the sensitivity threshold of your radio. So the standard for an FM radio is to have 12 decibels of what we call SINAD, signal incident to noise and distortion, at negative 116 decibel millivolts. That's way down there. We're talking 0.355 microvolts, I believe, on the antenna in that point. So way down there. So a lot of attenuation, and then that allows you to sweep and hear nothing. And then as you get close, you start to hear that signal come up, and it comes up with some static on it. And then as you get closer and closer to pointing right at it, that static clears up. And then it starts to build up and come back. And then it drops off to where you're not hearing it at all. And you come back and the static comes up, and now you hear the carrier, and there's barely any static at all. And then it falls off and you're back into the static again. That'll only work if you have the attenuation in play. So if all you have is the antenna and the HT, it's not going to work at all. And I think that's the problem that people had last year, because they're just getting too much signal in. So if all you're working with is your ear listening to the signal through your HT, you got to get it attenuated down close to the noise floor. So in that particular case with that Yagi like that, it's a good antenna for it, but it's not the entire package. So really work on getting that attenuated. There's other antennas that we've built that can also be used for this. But again, for the close game, almost no antenna other than what we call an inductive loop is going to provide sufficient sensitivity and selectivity to do what you need to do without significant attenuation with it. Now, if you do have something that can give you signal strength, and there is a way to do this with your nano VNA, I did confirm that. Again, you got to keep the signal pretty low coming into it, but you can watch the signal go up and down on a nano VNA and visually watch it get stronger and watch it get weaker. Watch that peak rise and peak fall. You're having to operate the nano VNA in a manner not intended by its manufacturer, but you can do it. So questions, comments, Tony?
How is that done on the Nano VNA? What inputs?
So you have to set up a sweep that is looking for the amplitude. I would prefer to do it as a logarithmic amplitude. And then that sweep has to cross that frequency. You're going to have to take the generator. So you're going to have to do this as an S21 measurement. And you're going to have to take the generator and dump that into a load. And then you're going to just watch the amplitude go up and down. The Nano VNA is going to think it's seeing its generator. You're actually watching the signal coming from the Fox, coming through the antenna.
So that's 21, that's a 2-port, right?
Yes.
So
you can't do it as an S11 because then your generator is on the same port as your receiver. You need to kick that off to the separate port.
So we set it up to sweep over that frequency that we're looking for, but then we actually just hook the antenna up to the
receive side.
port.
Yep.
And just make sure we have it attenuated enough that we're not gonna.
Yeah. And you're probably going to sweep pretty narrow because you just want to look at that channel and, you know, maybe a couple of channel spaces beside it. You don't want to be looking at the entire band because that peak may actually come up right between the sample points. So you,
Yeah, I like that, since you'll get a visual, you can see as you're sweeping, the signal going up and down.
Yep.
And if you narrow the sweep, then it'll update more often, right? So you're not sweeping.
depending on how you set it, yes, you may also want to reduce the sample count so that sweeps faster.
Yeah.
Joe?
So to do with nano VNA, besides the radio, the nano VNA and the antenna.
No, I'd still have one, but
Well, yes.
yeah, so you would connect an antenna, preferably something with a front to back ratio or a good null. Like if you did the homebrew cardioid setup, that'd be a real good one for this. You know, just a simple wooden stick and a couple of dipoles that are at the right spacing and then the right phasing on the cables, you know, and then the one thing you do need is you need a dummy load, which should come with your Nano VNA, a dummy load to put onto the generator port because it's going to want to turn it on for this type of measurement. So you want to dump that power into the dummy load for two reasons. It's good for the electronics, but number two, you don't want that interfering with the measurement you're trying to take. So make it quiet, make it dump into that dummy load so you're not having to hear it.
So you just screw the 50 ohm calibrator onto that port.
Yep. Okay, so go ahead, Tony.
Where do you get that home brew cardioid setup you're talking about?
If you want to learn how to make a cardioid pattern with your antenna, I would go to the ARRL antenna book.
Okay.
Does anybody not have one or not have access to one? Okay. Now it won't tell you how to make the support structure for it. It'll just tell you the spacing and the phasing. So, like I said, one of those long paint sticks from Home Depot or something like that. It could be as simple as that, or you know?
So would you make the spacing for the third harmonic, or would you make it for the primary? Frequency?
I might do both. Use the lower frequency to get me into the area, and then use the third harmonic to home in on it closer. You could make one end of the stick 70 centimeters, the other end of the stick 2 meters. Yeah,
Spacing in the antenna is based on frequency, right?
it is.
Yeah, so that would change. We can mark the stick, have two sets of holes or something.
But you're gonna have to have different size elements too.
But if you use it like your HD antennas, which are dual band,
Mhm.
can you use the same antenna? Or you want an antenna that's actually
I don't see why you couldn't. Because remember, we're not transmitting. It doesn't even have to provide a good match to the radio. When you're in receive only, you can receive acceptably to an SWR that's ridiculous, like 65 to 1. Is there loss in that? Yes, but what do we want in this case? Loss. So you can run it off resident and you can still receive with it just fine. I mean, who here's ever cruised around on their HF antenna and listened to a shortwave station that's way off resonant for it, and it received it fine? Yeah, or you use your 2 meter antenna and you listen to the airband, or you listen to commercial FM. It receives it okay. The match issues are much more of a problem in the forward direction, unless you're doing competitive SWL. And then you do want it to match. You want every dB you can get. But in this case, inefficient's your friend. Tony?
What kind of setup would the professionals like at the FCC or the military use to do this same finding an errant, a rogue signal out there?
Okay, so when I get hired to do this, I use a real-time spectrum analyzer from Roden Schwartz that has an interferometer antenna on it. And that is actually good all the way up until the short game. And then when I get into the short game, I just use attenuators and a log periodic antenna that's handheld, and it has attenuators built into it. And I'm always looking at a higher harmonic. I always find it in the higher harmonic because that's what gives me the reduced level to be able to get closer to the noise floor easier. So, and my success rate with that is still 100%. I've not found an unintentional emitter so far.
So using the harmonics, this way it's sort of like, instead of using attenuator or plus a
Well, on top of that, it's a smaller antenna. Looking for a 2 meter Fox with a 2 meter antenna is a little bit big and unwieldy. Looking for a 2 meter Fox with a 70 centimeter antenna is a lot easier. Same thing if I'm doing like cellular and it's 700 megahertz. It's a lot easier if I'm using an LPDA that is, you know, really looking at 2100 megahertz looking for it. It's nice and small and compact, and it gives the benefit of being deaf as a rock. Where else did you ever think it'd be a benefit that your radio is deaf as a rock? But in this fox hunting in the close game, that's really what you want. So
Put a dummy load on your HD. Does it still receive some signal?
it will a little bit.
Very little. I mean, that's good attenuation.
Yes, it is. I often, when I'm out working in the field, I just take the antenna completely off of my radio. And that way, since I'm right next to the transmitter, it isn't going to blow out the front end of my radio. Although in the case of my radio, I know it's not going to do that anyways. But then I don't have to worry about it overloading the receiver and stuff like that. Again, you'd be amazed at what you can receive off. It's hard to transmit off of an antenna effectively. It is not hard to receive off of an antenna effectively.
Well, dummy load would be better.
It can be, but that may not be enough. You may have to go further. Like I said, the sampler there is neg 30. That's a good start, but you may need an additional 60 dB of attenuation to get to where you need once you get close to the thing. Tony?
So on a different topic, are you going to tell us why you have those 800 megahertz cans up there on the table that you're leaning on?
Sure. So as you guys, well, if you participate in the TechNet, you know that I have a heck of a junk drawer. And my junk drawer is full. So what I've committed to doing is bringing in stuff from my junk drawer and sharing it with people who participate on the TechNet. I brought this in because this was decommissioned from the Hilo Airport's fire station when they rolled onto the new state P25 radio system. And the cans aren't really immensely useful to us because they're 860 megahertz. That doesn't really line up with any ham bands. But what was on these, like Gary has back there and I was showing, were these dummy loads attached to the circulators. So I brought this in and said, hey guys, if you want dummy loads, because a lot of people didn't realize that they make dummy loads that go up to, thousands of watts. But in this case, these will take your 100-watt HF rig all day, continuous. So it was a good source of dummy loads, plus the samplers, plus there was smaller dummy loads on there, 15 and 25-watt dummy loads. And then the cables got robbed off of them. And I think that these found a home with an experimenter who wants to do some experimentations with the cavities. So I also brought in a bin of 18 amp power supplies for radios, and those got handed out. I gave out some power strips. So there's going to be more in future meetings because I'm tired of tripping over the stuff and I can't see throwing it away, but I also don't have a use for 12 HF radio power supplies. So, and that's why these are here, is we were taking them apart to part them out and give stuff out. So if you want to be able to get stuff like that, just check into the TechNet. You don't have to participate, check in and out. That's all it takes to be eligible to get into my junk drawer. And a little bit of participation on the air. Now, if you don't live in the coverage area of the repeater and you need something, I'm not going to say no, but that's what this is all about.
There's also the HF.
And the HF TechNet. There is the HF TechNet. That's a good point. But still, so on that note, actually, Alan, you mind if I talk about the swap meet table?
Swap meet table.
Table. We just talked about it at the board meeting.
Table, yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
how could they not know? Good point. Okay, so we have TechNet on the 7.6 repeater. That's the Kalani Cone repeater on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. And then we have the statewide TechNet, which we do on HF, and that's on 7.088 Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, 7088. So talking about stuff like this, it was suggested, I believe, by Roy today that we have a table set up for all of these meetings in the future, because our silent auction over the past couple meetings went so well that if people have equipment that they want to bring in and sell, or even just give away for free, that we want to set up a table at every meeting in the future. You can bring it in, throw a price on it, or throw a label on it, says free, something like that. The big catch to this is if you bring in your 10-year backlog of QST magazines and nobody takes them, you got to take them back home with you. It's not a dumping ground. So, okay, what do we have next? Oh, the Fox.
Okay, I have one other question for the voice repeater committee. Is there any progress on getting that clamp for the microwave to link Kalani Cone to
I have not even looked to see if it is shipped yet. I've just been too busy to check.
Like things getting the Fox there. Last year, Hank did a ISS pass and was able to talk to one of the astronauts during field day. There is a beautiful pass lined up at 12:33 to, I believe it's 12:38. Let me, so it disappeared on me. Anyway, it starts at 12:33 and I believe it goes to 12:38. We'll confirm that for the day of the event, but it's a 58-degree pass, so a beautiful pass. So a good opportunity that the in the past, the astronauts were listening on that day and the repeater frequency. So maybe we'll get lucky. If not, maybe we can do some inter-island contacts for a field day for that pass. So spread the word, make sure the frequencies are programmed in your radios. And it is possible with a mobile and a handheld to just get the ISS. It's got a nice new radio on it, and it's easy to get into and crystal clear conversations. So
That's a great use for that folding antenna made out of the window blinds that you were talking about, Mark. That's a great antenna for doing satellite contacts. As an Iris and AMSAT guy, I can confirm that there will be astronauts scheduled to be on the. Perfect.
Hey, Gary, you got that big arrow doggy. Maybe you should be appointed to make that one contact for us to get our 200 points.
You know, all the times that I've always did it with the common antenna. It works beautifully.
Whichever. It's got a nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, also the club gets bonus points if we make a contact.
Well, Hank got the QSL card last year, so.
So it's messy, but this is the Fox. This is the actual transmitter. That little module there came from off of AliExpress, and then it's run by the Raspberry Pi. I didn't need a big one. I could have used one of the little tiny ones, but this is an old Raspberry Pi 2 that I just had, in a bin. So I figured I'd repurpose it. And this is what an easy digi board. Basically, it isolates the audio. And I didn't really end up using it, but it's still on there because we were trying to make it so it would do parrot. So like you transmit and then it would echo back what you say, but we're having problems with that. So it's just gonna just transmit once a minute for now. So this is what? Oh, I just, just one of my HD antennas screwed on there at the moment. So this puts about 100 milliwatts.
Is that how it's going to look when it's hidden?
But it's going to be in this
Camouflage can.
camouflage can.
Better spray paint that cover black or something.
Yeah, I didn't know how stealthy we wanted it. We want it found. So that's the box sheet, right? Didn't have time to make it smaller, prettier. Just use what I had laying around.
Looks beautiful to me.
Yeah. Look upside down, thinking it's the red cover.
Why 1 minute interval?
I think that was the lowest I could go on the ID. Is it using is that what it?
We decided last year and this year we used the open repeater software. So it's a repeater software built in. So Jim basically built a simplex simplex repeater. And then the IDing feature, he was able to pull it down, append the time, add the CW, and then make the repeater ID every 1 minute. So you could do 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute. 1 minute was the smallest increment.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to increase the squelch tail so that it transmits transmits a larger percentage of the time. Right now it's about 4 seconds. I can see how big I can make it. So it may not be saying anything, but it'll have you should be able to pick it up on it. If you look at your signal.
Jim, you may be able to put the call sign in there a couple of times.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's right call sign this time.
Yeah. Have it repeat the call sign several times.
Hey, Jim, what's the frequency?
146550.
Okay.
So that's just one event that we're going to have at Field Day is the fox hunt. And I guess if people enjoy it, we can do it twice. But what other events are we going to have at Field Day, Joe? I know we're going to have some food, right?
We have food and we're also going to have a demonstration of an easy way to put a portable antenna vertical for portable.
Okay. Well, and that speaks to what the initial intent of Field Day was. It's not just about, going out and fox hunting and having a barbecue and stuff like that. Field Day was put together so that people would get some practice to go out and learn how to set up in the field. So if you're an MCOM person, this is a really good one for you. Come out and participate in setting up antennas and operating. It's another great part of field day. So we're going to have operating stations. I believe we're going to have 2 HF rigs, plus the tri-band radio that Les donated to the club as our get on the air station. And I know I'm bringing an easy up and at least a table. And I think you said you're going to bring an easy up. That's the tent.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So what else do we need people to bring, Joe?
Okay, so tables, pop-up stands.
Sit down, make sure you bring a chair.
Yeah,
Why did you write down? Joe, what
uh,
you were bringing?
I had, I'm trying to figure out here. We need coolers, tables, pop-up tents, chairs. I don't know who's bringing what. That's
They're
what,
saying it now. Like Jim bringing a tent.
You know,
How many
so how many
tents do you need?
tents do you need? How many tables do you need?
I think 3, you know,
You need a food table, you need 2 operating tables.
There's a permanent table there that we can pop a tent over.
Unless somebody's using it.
yeah.
Well, we pop over first thing in the morning at 7 o'clock when they get open, so.
Yeah,
nobody's
somebody's
gonna
already sleeping on it.
use it. Then I'll throw it off. I'll be there, so I'll throw them off. Don't worry about it.
Hey, brother.
I'll throw them in the pond.
Okay, are you done?
Okay, do we have anyone to bring coolers? I don't actually have a cooler, otherwise I would bring one.
I can bring a cooler.
Okay, so we got one
It'll be
cooler,
empty.
one empty cooler. Paul, you said you're gonna bring some tables?
Tables, chairs,
Propane may be a problem.
tent,
this year.
pop-up tent.
There's a strike right now.
Yeah, but that's only affecting commercially. You can still do your fill-ups at the various spots, but
Oh, there's another important part of field day we gotta discuss. Traditionally, a certain hand brings a very good thing to eat down there. What's on the agenda?
You don't want to mention Paul's name.
Yeah, we don't want to commit.
I don't know. What do you guys want?
Well, you make everything edible.
some of the side chicken or egg base.
Sous chef here. We can bring a little butane.
what you did last year, was it 14?
Okay, please.
That was good. Joe, is it
Chili in
potluck?
the year before was good.
Especially up there, I'm on the road, those freezing.
Potluck?
I said, you want to talk about the food a little bit, potluck, what time for lunch or breakfast setup?
I haven't really decided on that. I think one should be about 12. That's normal, you know, and we just wait and see how, what everyone has.
So somebody bring wings? Did I hear that right?
So if someone has a propane stove, I have a full 5-gallon tank that I could bring with propane. Anyone have a propane stove?
Or a grill.
Grill? That's what I
Probably
meant.
better.
Yeah,
You
grill.
know, you talk about food,
Like outdoors.
so probably a grill that,
Grill, yeah.
okay, yeah, that can do.
Anyone have a grill that they could bring?
Somebody bought one last year.
I left mine out in the rain and it kind of deteriorated.
That was my grill, yeah.
Is it-
Yeah, I gotta look for it. Probably somewhere in my garage. After I'll bury it.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Yeah.
So we can go look for the fox. Maybe you can make it look like a fox, right?
I don't know.
Okay, our guests that I've never seen before, but anyway, you have any comments, questions? You've been awfully quiet, so I just wondered. You said you. For your information, we have a formal membership meeting in May and one in November. And all the other months, we have meetings like this where a presentation is made. We've been talking about antennas and all kinds of, especially antennas. We've had a lot of presentations on it. It's been very informative. So May and November are the formal membership meeting. And at the meeting, this last time, all the committees will present what their objectives are, what they're doing, what they plan to do, and things like this. And we're trying to encourage more members to participate in the club's operations. And also, we want to attract new members to our club too. We just finished a trifold that we've been passing out, talks about what BIARC is. and has information, even has a form in the back to fill out, right, if you want to join up. So what we're doing is whenever we finish a technician's class, I mean, not the exam, they reach the technician general, extra general, they will receive a brochure to encourage them to join the club. So the more people we have in the club, more expertise we have in a club, and that's really our objective here. Okay, any questions? Thank you.
Anybody get to CW? Anybody do CW? Because we don't need, I mean, we're gonna push this course because we need CW at the field day. Because the reason why is because CW gives us a lot of points.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, we gotta make like, was it 5 voice contacts to make one CW contact? The
Wow.
Point system, or something like that. It's crazy. So.
All-
So Roy, if you bring your key, we always have people that show up at DCW. And you don't have.
I've
You
got,
don't have?
I've got a key, so
You got
that's
it.
what,
I was a CW.
I brought my key last, my
Oh, you
paddle
don't want
last
that?
time, and that's when the guy from out of state that was visiting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
you
have-
can.
He
we
operated.
always have people show up. that want to do
Yeah.
it. And,
Nice.
you know, like Beth Gables, she does it. There's a.
Man, this is come out of our house. I've never seen this person. I think it's a, I
I've
think it's AI. Somebody
Yes.
oh, I bet it's, it does come out of the female voice saying that she's Beth Gable. But I don't, whichever.
It's real.
I think symbols.
Does it qualify if I use Gary's translator?
Yeah, Gary can translate.
No, he has this little device that listens to CW and it turns it into
Oh, that's
letter.
interesting. On his ears feels good then.
Yeah.
A quick question. The other pumps, offering was using I was hoping to do it like a higher band, 10-meter contact. If they do anything, it'd be great to club the club contacts would be a great, it might not be much point. No.
I can.
No, I was just wondering, because I was gonna mention the antennas that we're gonna be using are all.
I don't think
homemade.
the soft way, I'm afraid of something.
Yes, I don't ever bring an antenna. I just bring stuff and throw it up and
Makes it.
it receives signals.
I don't think they're even active anymore. Like nobody shows up in that lunch stuff anymore.
I just found out about it last month.
What, the Shark Tank?
Yeah, I didn't really know that they had one.
Oh, yeah, it's been on this website forever. But I don't think it's there anymore.
Bonds, that would be the buyer.
Just a handful of our members.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, he said this is the best meeting around, so that's why you're here, right?
If we could get this guy to come to our field day, I'm sure he could do a satellite contact.
Probably. This guy lives in Alaska, but he's there only 1 month out of the year. So I'm sure he's going to be there sometime. Yeah.
I didn't look at that pass. We're up to the ocean.
Okay, we'll close the meeting for now, but stick around, fellowship, talk to each other, make contacts. I'm sorry, Jim?
I just want to mention that all the antennas that we're gonna use for field day are gonna be homemade, and they're very compact. You can roll them up, so they're field expedient antennas, so something that you'd use in an actual disaster if you had to set up quickly. So that, we're not using a big beam or something that you have to buy at a store. It's something you can make out of scrap.
And actually, the last time I made an antenna for a field day was at Winter Field Day 2 years ago, and I just made it out of stuff on the spot.
You made it out of the military mast that we put our antennas on.
Yep.
So there was no antenna, the mast was the antenna.
Yep.
Yep.
And it worked.
It worked
There's
great.
a lot of contacts. When you put that thing on, his waterfall went ballistic. He's like, look. So we're gonna have the T2LT antenna for 10 meters and one for 20.
Yeah.
And that this is antennas made out of coax, so anybody can make these. And the visiting hand guy that did the no, not this guy down here, but the winter field day guy. A couple of few days ago, he left behind end fed set that was already tuned for 20 and up. So I gotta find that antenna. He gave it to me. They find that antenna, we'll have 2, possible 3 antennas at field day. We're focusing on 20 meters and up, no 40. So it's 40 meters, not non-existent during the daytime.
Alan, this is just a break. We've got more material.
What's
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
This is just a break. We've
Yeah.
got more material.
Okay, the meeting's over, but please fellowship, okay? And we got an hour more on this, in this room, so stick around. Thank you.
Not over.
Huh?
We're taking a break and then we've got more material. for the next-
Oh, you got more material?
Yeah, meeting's till 4 o'clock.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You just pause
10
this
minutes
here.
break, stretch out. Break. I'll put my stolen jumper to the truck.
Anybody has a key that can be borrowed? Oh, I have that. SBC, I got on the table there.
Oh, sorry.
And,
I thought I got everybody on the agenda.
Yeah, if you guys wanted a vertical antenna out there, so you could run vertical and horizontal at the same time, but if you've got the T2LTs, those can be vertical, right?
That's how we're using it vertical.
Yeah.
On our, on those extendable poles. You know,
So
the-
we'll have each every.
Yeah.
Should be okay.
What is the
Vector network analyzer.
So, when Reinhardt was up 2 months ago, and True Network to check it, he was using, is that what it's using? or-
He was using a version of VNA called a Rig Expert, but a vector network analyzer is simply an analyzer that can look at a value and a direction at the same time. That's why it's a vector. Otherwise, it'd be a scalar analyzer. Like a wattmeter is a scalar analyzer. It just shows the power on a scale. Whereas a vector network analyzer can look at the amplitude and the phase. And from that, it can infer what the radiative resistance is, what the reactance component of it is, and stuff like that.
So you can actually see the Smith chart of the antenna you connected.
Well, if I was interested in learning how to build antennas, which instruments are really the most useful?
A VNA.
Yeah.
Yep, even a nano VNA does a good job.
Victor's network.
Yep.
Okay, I'll pay attention to that. You'll hear guys like Dewey and on statewide.
I just needed to wait to, I borrowed a copy of the club, so I have a couple. So I'm just needing to read.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For,
Everything.
oh, appreciate that.
And I will say for the second half, the thing here directly, we didn't go to that restaurant, but I have it in the GPS at Cudillo. Oh, so we're gonna go
Oh,
there.
I'm just gonna leave that running just in case any bloopers happen while,
I love the grill. Hey, that was an excellent presentation. That was really good. I've heard a lot of stuff about antennas.
I didn't want to actually put on a demonstration because then it'll be too easy when they get out there in a couple of days. So I just wanted to talk about it.
Lot of good. Brandon does a great job. Yeah, that's good stuff. So, yeah. Well, I hope to work you guys on field day and look forward to it. And then your tech net, it's really interesting because, of course, that's a legal frequency in Alaska too. So 7088, we have a net there, but it's much earlier than what you're talking about. But now I'm going to listen. Because of the daylight savings time and the hour time difference, it'll be 10 o'clock our time. So I'm going to listen. 10 o'clock on Thursday night, 10 p.m. and see if I can get it.
Yeah, that's actually a really fun net. The tech net on the repeater is good, but the HF net is just taking it to the next level.
Are there some people running power on it?
Not usually, it's gonna lead.
Yeah, well, I got a direct station. It's a TR7 and L7. So there's engine some power.
Yeah, I've got a homebrew 600 watt amp that I can turn on if I need to, but I generally only run about 7 watts on it.
Well, I'll tell you what, this Thursday, I'll be on at 10 o'clock and I'll try to call you blind or listen for you or something.
Okay, but if you go to 40meter.net, that is the website we use is the net log for all the Jeff Nets.
Spelled out, METER?
Yes, 40meter.net. And then there's a chat box on there and the net roster is visible, so yeah, 40meter.net. That way, if you can't remember where you were in line or what, you can just look, or if you don't remember who this person is, you can click on their call sign in the net log, take it to their QRS page. Yeah, so it's.
I'm gonna write that down right now. Is that possible?
You guys are on the same time zone as us, right?
No, we're two off. We're one off because of geography. We're two off because of daylight savings. We're actually basically on the same time zone, but politics back in the 80s got into it. And okay, what's going on? The state capital is Juneau. Most of the population is in Anchorage and Fairbanks, what they call the rail belt. That's 2 time zones off. Because the time zones merge with the North Pole. And so people were pissed off at the politicians. They were 2 time zones off and they couldn't call them at the same time. And so, the politicians decided, okay, this is an easy solution. Screw topography. We're going to move the panhandle, Juneau, 1 time zone to the west. We're going to move the rail belt 1 time zone to the east. And we're going to meet Yukon. So we are actually really on Yukon time. 2 time zones. It's 1 time zone off of you, plus daylight savings time in the summer. That's a really long answer for a short.
Well, and I bet that daylight savings time in the summer really helps, right?
It's more around like that anyway. It's not really good.
If there's anywhere to not do it, it would be there.
That's right. And they've taken surveys and 85% of the population wants to put daylight savings time, and the politicians will do it. How many times
Sounds like
listen to your will?
Yeah.
I write 40meter.net.
Yeah, 40meter.net.
10 p.m. by 10 p.m.
Yep.
This week.
Oh, no, that one's at 7 p.m. So it's actually 9 p.m. your time.
So you're sure?
The one on the repeater on Wednesdays is 8 p.m. The one on HF on Thursdays is at 7 p.m. So yeah, it'll be 9 o'clock your time. Yep.
I'm gonna look up. I'm sure that's all on there.
I'm sure it is. I've never looked. I just use it for the net log. Sure. Well, I mean, they're just cavities. Well, you've been inside a can before, right? Well, these are going to blow your mind. Take a look at that little loop. And that's a double, because that's a pass. So one of the singles is only just a little loop that's about 3/8 inch.
Interesting. And at the end of the course, it's adapted to go from 75
Out of everyone, Jerry said, "Hey, I think this can." Sure.
So the module has the attenuator, dummy load, and what are the 2 things on the
You've got
side?
2 circulators on it.
Okay, those are circulators.
Yeah, but they're for 860 megahertz. So they'd be good to use when you're teaching yourself how to tune them.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna probably get them to work on anything amateur. I don't think you could stretch it to 33 centimeters. But you might be able to, but that's pretty far to stretch those.
So they're for educational use.
Yeah. But the dummy loads.
Yeah, the dummy
that's
loads, yeah.
That's the good part.
And
of
the
it.
attenuator.
Yep.
That's those are the 2 parts that are really useful.
Well, it's not an attenuator, it's a sampler.
Oh.
So an attenuator attenuates in both directions. The sampler is not coupled to the signal path at all. It's literally just a piece of metal that goes down next to the coax center conductor, and it's just bent over and sits next to it, and it just barely couples. So an attenuator you could transmit through from the BNC. You can't transmit into that BNC.
Well, I was surprised how little it's in there.
It's got 3 ports.
Oh, there's nothing
But
in
in
it.
and out,
Yeah,
and then
it's
the
through.
same-
But it's just.
Yeah, so the through,
I was expecting. it
one
to
side
be
would be
full.
radio, one side be antenna.
It's just an empty.
Or one side would be the rim, one side would be the dummy. Typically, is how that's used.
Yeah, and then just tune it to-
So if you want to see how dirty a RIC is, you transmit into that dummy load and you hook your spectrum analyzer up. The reason it's on there is between these cavities. So what you do is you hook your spectrum analyzer up and you get that peak as low as possible through that sample port. And then you know that they're as little as possible feeding back through the cavity into the circuit.
Yeah, so if you ever get a 2-meter repeater.
This looks very well machined.
You can take them off.
Yes.
I messed up one can doing that. I took all the
Oh, the minor assembly or just?
No.
Then you gotta hook each one up to the DNA and electric.
I told you, it looked very nicely machined.
How much did you say that?
Looks very expensive.
The whole thing put together was $18,000. But that includes the engineering to select, you have these frequencies, you need this amount of isolation,
Yeah.
you know.
So you're not paying for components, you're paying for the design.
Correct. Well, and then they tune it at the
Oh,
factory.
yeah.
And then they ship it and they screw the tuning all up and then I have to retune it when it gets out here.
So you can have one, but you're gonna have to trade in your full truck.
Yeah, they tune them in Alaska, right? When it's cold, and you come out here and then they swell.
No, Bird is, that's what makes TXRX is Bird. They do it in a room that is 72 degrees and 60% humidity. And they tell you that. In fact, it may even be on their label here. They used to put it on the label, the frequency or everything. But yeah, no, this is a newer one. It was before about like 2000. They printed the temperature and everything. They tuned to that on the label.
For me, if you just go by one radio, one set done, that's so much.
Because I added it later. It was originally a 3-channel system and I came back and added the 4th channel in 2017.
So the question is like, if you tune it at a specific frequency, at a temperature, how, do they calculate how much it changes? Like over, like say you up in Honolulu, the temperature can vary quite a bit.
So if you're going to be in an environment that is subject to broad temperature swings, you may choose to not use this type of cavity, and you may choose to use one that's dielectric. And that helps with that issue.
Okay, so not all cavities have the same thermal characteristics.
Correct.
No, but I can tell you when I had trouble with the door. They bring it back down and it'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't work.
Yep, exactly. That exact problem was paid my salary. And usually it's somebody from the mainland. It's also like someone.
That's not good feedback.
Yeah, I don't know. They leave, it gets alarmed. I don't know if somebody back out, but can you go see what it's like? And I'm like, sure, I already know what the issue is. So.
You can, but it's
The
not like
FAA and Coast Guard. both have it. Now, the guy, the Coast Guard guy from, he's taking it out. But the people they have before the current contract with General Dynamics.
Just like we did.
One of the guys in the field, it was just a guy on somewhere, and all he could do was plug it in. And we want to see what happens.
Yeah, you're right.
I love driving that around, and it gets good mileage. I kid you not, you know how to.
Yeah, I'd like to.
I've got to keep copies of nothing but water.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll show you one.
Either after the.
I haven't seen 35.6.
Yeah.
Only going on from feedback, but once you hit the highway into town, that's.
Yeah, I bought a,
Right. So
That would have to be announced.
I get a 21.
All three.
I just had to throw.
Yeah.
Okay, meeting come to order, meeting come to order.
And I was holding it, I was going, man, Eric would love to have this pocket crusher. Pull out another one.
Hey, Lee, are you still there?
Affirmative.
She's still there. I just wanted to wake you up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks again for doing a good job on a hamgram. Okay. Let's get started before we all fade away. Yell at the guys outside. Right there.
Don't forget to use the mic, Alan.
I apologize for not knowing.
Well, actually, Jim just asked me like
Oh.
an hour ago.
Okay, Gary.
Gary, bring him in.
Let those guys know.
We need a bell to ring.
Yeah, my ears perked up, something saying Raspberry Pi.
Yep.
Okay, so it says Raspberry Pi.
All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about the emergency communications aspect of amateur radio. And first of all, in the last 30 days, it started with meetings with civil defense between Doug Wilson and myself. And we met with Director of Civil Defense, Talmadge and Bill, and started coordinating exactly how we can all work together. So that led to a meeting with the CERT admin team, and that led to a meeting with the CERT team leads, and that led to a 3-day summit that I just got back from up there at the KMC. And Madam Pele showed up and we all had a great time, spent 3 days up there in the cabins and got lots of good conversations that happened. So the idea was to partner and all work together. So what we are doing right now with the CERT teams, and I started our training yesterday, we're working on plans to enable WinLink communication pathways between potentially SAR teams, search and rescue teams in the field and their incident command post, and communication pathways between the incident command post and the EOC. Now, this methodology of how this is going to be accomplished will vary from team to team, depending on how far away they are from civil defense and what infrastructure they have in their area. So there's several different ways of accomplishing radio email connectivity between the people in the field, their incident command post, and the emergency operations center. One of those methodologies will involve the ARES hubs. So everybody that we talked to about this realized that the field teams may not have a good pathway to get their communications directly or even through their incident command post, and may need help from the ARES hubs. So we do have a solid commitment from Hawaii County Civil Defense to work together with ARES. And this has not been the case for many years. And also with the Auxiliary Communications Service, ACS. So we shared what the capabilities are. The problem is we don't have a lot of reliable hub stations in every community. So the idea of the ARES hub station is to have a station with an experienced operator that has emergency power, battery power generators, solar, that can operate on VHF, maybe UHF, HF, with radio email capabilities as well, and potentially other digital modes. So these are the more experienced operators that are better equipped. Will run a hub station that would allow people in their community who are less experienced with less equipment to transmit, oftentimes via just voice on VHF, into the hub station and get a message from the Aries hub to whatever destination they need to get it to. Now, the idea behind Aries hubs is that they will handle communications for any group. They are not beholden specifically to civil defense or any particular group. So that can include health and welfare traffic. If there's been a hurricane and all communications are down and you'd like to let your family know that you're okay, an Aries hub is the way to do it. Get on your HT, transmit to the Aries hub. They will send a radio email message. It'll go out to a public email address through probably HF to a zone that has internet, and then it will continue on to its destination. So doesn't matter what group it is, we want to support a network communications setup for everyone. And that means we need stations in every community, north, south, east, and west. And that means we need volunteers to stay active in Aries, make sure their stations are up to snuff for VHF, HF, and digital modes. And so we have about 105 Aries members on the Big Island. Now, the question is, how many of them are still active? So the number of people who are actually active, that's a much lower number. I can't tell you exactly what it is. Trying to figure that out. So I really hope that everyone here can help me to identify stations who are interested in becoming more active with the Amateur Radio Emergency Service now that we have formed these direct relationships with VOAD, with civil defense, and that we're moving into modern times in terms of using digital modes, real-time GPS mapping, and so forth. I think it's a pretty exciting thing that we've got these agreements to work together. But I gotta tell you that I'm a little bit nervous now that civil defense has said, yeah, show us what you can do. I need people to step up, and so we can show them what we can do. So that's the situation at hand, and just wanted to get it out to the group and answer any questions. You can ask now, or you can send me email, tonykitchen808@gmail.com. I'll work with you. And I guarantee you, anyone that would like to help, I can help find an area that you can help with, because we need the skills in every type of, every band, every mode. There's a lot of different areas. We need help with repeaters, with digipeaters, with voice modes, digital HF. That looks like that's going to be a part of the situation. So can I answer any questions about what we got going on now? Gary.
On people's strengths, so if you have a voice operator, you don't need digital at all, like the voice capable, maybe some type of sign up sheet coverage that to go along with that, so we can kind of see from the hand's area of responsibility.
Yeah, we've only really been trying to have one hub in each community, basically because that was already a hard enough goal in and of itself. It doesn't mean we can't have more than one, like one doing voice and another doing digital modes. That's certainly a possibility. We've actually generated maps. I've generated maps of all the Aries members, interactive maps, but this is private data. Some people don't want to have their QTH on a map. So it's really only available to me and potentially the DECs. But I have generated infrastructure maps that show the WinLink gateways and the hub stations. So that's probably something that we can share a little bit more. But yeah, if you only want to do voice, I could see you acting as a voice hub separate from the digital hub. Yeah.
How much of a commitment are you talking about to be active in Aries? I know that Aries has swallowed your life whole, but it's not always like that, is it?
No, it's not. So really, the base level is very little. We're asking that you take the ICS 100 and 200 courses, and that's available at training.fema.gov, free online video courses. Yeah, they're not lengthy courses. So that lets you learn about the incident command system. And then also the ICS, or actually they're called IS 100, IS 200. Also the IS 700 and 800, which lets you learn about the National Incident Management System. And what that does is it's a framework for everybody, how everybody works together. So that's like a basic introduction. As far as regular participation, you do a couple of things. You join the Aries groups.io listserv. There's one called Maine at Hawaii Aries, and that's a statewide group. And then there's a Big Island one, and that's our local communications. And there's actually not a lot of communications coming through on those email reflectors, really a few messages a month, just a handful. But the idea is that whenever there's some kind of impending doom type situation approaching the islands, we're going to get you good information out on that from National Weather Service or Civil Defense. We'll just relay the information there. So you get a heads up, that something might be happening. Then we have 3 to 4 communication exercises a year. So there's typically a flood drill, a tsunami drill, and an earthquake drill, and maybe one other. So that, for example, there's the simulated emergency test coming up in October. There's the USGS, did you feel it drill? And so we're asking people to essentially participate in those drills in whatever capacity you're capable of doing. So if you just have an HT, the idea is that we might get you out a simple message that for the purposes, or 2 or 3 simple messages that you could transmit to your local hub. Or if you have the ability to transmit directly to its destination, that's fine too. You don't have to go through the hubs. And then you transmit the message during the drill. We map your message on the GIS maps, and we kind of keep track of our success rate. So if we send 100 messages out to the stations, we want to make sure, hopefully, that we get 100 messages coming in. And we track from year to year, or attempt to track how well we're able to operate as a community. So pretty much it's taking the basic training. Of course, all of your skills in amateur radio, whatever skills you develop, that's useful to the group, and you can exercise those skills.
Tony, those are the same classes you need to take as prerequisites to take an OXCOM class from FEMA, aren't they?
Yeah, so the OXCOM courses, that's a much higher level of commitment than you're going to have to commit to with Aries. Aries, we do some training, we do some drills, but it just gets the operators up to speed enough that they could volunteer if they wish to help support other organizations like CERTS or American Red Cross or Salvation Army or Team Rubicon. It's really helping to prepare someone to become an emergency communications operator. Now, Aries also has a couple of courses. We don't really mandate them. There's the EC 001 course, Emergency Communicator 001 course. But what we do ask you to do is register on the hawaiiaries.net website. So in that spot, you basically put in a little information about yourself, where you're located, things like your vehicle, license plate number. There's a screen where you register the courses that you've taken. You just check boxes to indicate what courses you've taken. And there's a spot where you can register your equipment. So whether you have mobile HF or base station HF, basic information like that. We've got all that in a database so that we can extract data from the database, see who is got certain capabilities within certain communities. And when impending disaster is headed our way, we can reach out prior to the disaster. And basically we would ask, are you able to stand up a station in this community on this frequency? So the Aries leadership, we produce what's called the ICS 205, which is essentially a radio communications plan, which encompasses both voice and digital modes that allows us to maintain communications with people in our community and between the Aries hubs and hopefully with all the other agencies that we might need to support. Does that cover it for you?
Yeah, so it just sounds to me like you really just need people who are willing to participate in a couple of exercises, take some one-time training, and otherwise it's just like joining nets, right?
Well, yeah, a lot of it is just like a net. So yeah, it is not a real big commitment, and it's actually pretty fun. When you're passing that message traffic, and then you can actually go on the website after the drill and see that your message traffic got through. It's kind of neat. So, we always encourage more capabilities. So we'll probably be encouraging more stations to use their GPS and use radio email. You don't have to, but that's the latest mode that everybody's kind of exploring. And that's probably a good capability to have. Any other questions, comments? Yeah.
I think, also I think it's important, like that when we have the nets, like the Aries nets, that every once in a while, Irene will do message traffic. It's really good that every once in a while, take a message or give a message out, because it really makes it a lot easier and quicker in an actual disaster or a drill to transfer a message if you have practice doing it. Knowing the keywords, like when you're done saying it, you say it over, and when the other person copying has that, they're ready for the next line, you say ready, and then this way the flow goes back and forth nice and easy. If you don't know those keywords and what to do, it can take 3 times as long to transfer a message. So just practicing it once in a while. You don't have to do it every time, but even if you listen in and just copy down the message as somebody else is doing it and see how well you do, it just gets you good at listening and following along with the form.
That's true. Voice message handling is an art. And we've had some of the people get on our drills for the first time, and they'll start spewing off 20 words, not realizing that somebody at the other end has to be writing this down, right? And by the time they finish transmitting for a minute or a minute and a half, the person on the other side repeats back the first 3 words and says, say again, all after, and, and, it could take a half hour to get a message through if you don't know that you need to say, 3 to 5 words at a time max, keep it slow, and say over. And when the person receiving the message says, Roger, or go ahead, or go, then you can do another 3 to 5 words slowly. And so that practice is just critical. Now, really, I think the radio email messaging is a lot easier. So for example, one of the things that we test is Hawaii County Civil Defense wants to get an EAM, emergency alert message, right? And in the past, those emergency alert messages are several paragraphs long. I could not believe how lengthy they were. And so we were transmitting them years past only over HF voice. And somebody at the other end trying to write that down, you can imagine static, signal fading in and out. It was impossible. So what we've done now is they also transmit it here on VHF. I pick up the message with a clear signal. I'm transcribing it into WinLink radio email. Usually I record it because on my smartphone, because that allows me to go back and make sure I got it right. Type it into the radio email. I have a distribution list of all the hub stations as a little notepad document. I copy and paste all the call signs. I paste that into the to box on WinLink. I put the subject of EAM from Civil Defense, and I paste the message in, hit send. That message goes out to all the hub stations island-wide via radio email. They get it clearly and correctly, and then they can have that information to broadcast out to stations in their local community, or at least answer questions about what was said on VHF. And we bypassed the challenge that we had with EAMs on HF.
Doing a one-way broadcast, maybe every 15 minutes or at the top of the hour. In the receiving station, either SDR, or short-wave radio, HF rig, and be able to receive it, even just with audio coupling or the phone sitting next to the radio. Interface. So I'm not saying stop what you're doing. That's great for the station, but I compliment on sending it out a different way.
And that's where it helps for us to know at Aries what capabilities you have. I think SDR capability is one of the checkboxes on the form. I'll have to double check that. But yeah, if we know that there's, you know, at least a handful of operators that can receive it through other modes like FLDigi or SDRs or shortwave radios or whatever, then we can look at that and say, okay, this would be worth sending it out 2 or 3 different ways. Because actually we still send it out on HF. It still goes out that way. And we're doing it on WinLink. If there's other modes that, you know, multiple stations are planning to use, DMR or whatever, I think we can include that in the plan. Anyone else?
So in the communications plan, there would need to be a frequency that you could look for like FLDigi type messages.
Yeah, so how we work that is we try to have the district emergency coordinators in each district, north, south, east, and west, talk to their local stations, their key players, their community emergency coordinators, if we got them, and say, you know, what capabilities do you plan on listening to or transmitting on? And the idea is that each district emergency coordinator drives the ICS 205 communication plan. Now, I don't want to sit from a central point and try to dictate. I want to listen to what each community wants to do, you know, what they think will work in their area, and follow whatever recommendations each DEC provides. And so that typically means you're going to probably establish a VHF simplex or a VHF repeater, or maybe other, you know, an HF channel. Now the HF we kind of do on more of a centralized basis because we have to coordinate between the islands so we don't conflict with each other. But yeah, any mode that you want to include in those plans, any mode, you know, that you think would work, we want to include on our communication plan. Thanks, Jim. All right.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. William, looks like we're gonna have to work on that balloon repeater.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Actually, I didn't, instead of a balloon, I built one into a drone.
Oh, it's moving around?
Well, not right now, but
Oh.
yeah, so I've got a repeater I can fly up to 400 feet.
Okay, we can put that on a balloon.
Yeah, it's a
And you know
cockpit
those
repeater.
huge concrete structures down at the airport? We could use that for anchoring the balloon.
No,
Why?
too close to the runway.
Yeah, but there won't be any planes flying when there's a hurricane or.
There's not going to be a balloon up there if there's a hurricane either.
Okay, meeting officially over. Paul?
I need a mic.
You need a mic, okay. We need to amplify your soft voice.
Yeah. Anyway, I should have made this announcement before we took our break, but over here on the desk over here, I brought a chart of the United States frequency allocations. And you're gonna be shocked when you take a look at how small inky dinky the hams have on the entire spectrum. And in fact, you may not be able to see some of them. So before you leave, take a look at that chart. It's really enlightening. And if I was the FCC, I wouldn't even be looking at ham frequencies because there's so many. So
If you're interested in that, I think if you go to Road and Schwartz's website and go to the right page, they'll send you a smaller version of that poster for free.
Oh.
And
okay.
they also send out like handbooks on doing power calculations and stuff like that for free. But
What's the site?
Road and Schwartz.
We also have downloads too. I've gotten their RF components. and they-
Oh, yeah. Road and Schwartz is, in fact, I think I sent you a video about direction finding
Yeah, that was
from Road and Schwartz.
Oh,
So I
okay.
use their
I'll get it
videos in
from
my
you.
RF class.
Okay, if you guys don't mind, could you help put the tables away and the chairs away before you leave? Thank you very much. Have a great day.
What's that?
Thank you.
ROHDE, I believe. I think, but it's road, even if you misspell it, you just Google Road and Schwartz, SEHWARZ, it'll come up. All right, Mike, I'm gonna boot you off the meeting. See you later.
I'm so thankful Google is very tolerant to spelling errors.